Hi, and welcome to the fourth episode of season number 1 of The Biz Live, sponsored by DCW Group. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in, if that's what you call it. We've been debating this for the last week or two since we started. Are you tuning in or are you just clicking in? And what is this? Is this an interactive business show? Is it a television show or broadcast? Please leave your comments down below. So we have a great show lined up for you today. Our guest is Martin Roberts, the charity founder, the entrepreneur, the property, I use this word very rarely, guru, and presenter of about 28 seasons at my last count of BBC One's Homes Under the Hammer. He'll be joining us in 6 minutes' time. And I would just like to say from the off, as per usual, that this group and this episode of episodes, I beg your pardon, a group of episodes, in fact, 4 episodes, i.e. season 1, I love live, is sponsored by the DCW Group. And that is helmed by Dean Ward, who's had a wonderful 4 or 5 weeks since he launched his new property project online as well. It's a platform and it's doing really, really well. So big shout out to you, Dean, and your team. Sort of rhymes there. Thank you so much for supporting our season 1 and getting things going, and our pilot episode just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to bring into the studio our co-producer and also my co-host, the wonderful and hugely experienced networker and TV executive, Sarah Brooks. Hello there, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hi, Jamie. I am good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, really excited by today's episode. I think property is something which feels to me like very much a good theme. I think people are thinking about, the state of the market in uncertain times. Are our homes going to go up or down in value? What's the commercial sector looking like? Is it a good time to invest, buy to let, carry on renting? We'll be asking all these questions, and we would like to invite you to ask the questions. If you are watching now, it will be restreamed straight away on LinkedIn afterwards, and you can continue to leave comments. It's a great chance to sort of chat and interact with each other, if you like, a bit of networking, because our foundation is Evo Networking, which I'll tell you about just before we welcome Martin. So tell us, today's theme is property, is it not, Sarah?
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in the sort of convergence of work and home life that we've all experienced over the past few months. We've asked a lot of questions of our homes, haven't we? They've become offices, classrooms, some cases gyms, cinemas, restaurants, and today a broadcast studio. So we put them under a lot of pressure. It's homes under pressure. Let's forget homes under the hammer. We're all feeling that that things can't carry on perhaps as they have been in the past, and that maybe we're experiencing a real shift in the way that we experience these spaces at the moment.
I can see Martin in our virtual green room with his hand over his mouth as you came up with a new TV show idea, as you happen to do.
Under pressure.
And if Martin's listening, if you didn't realise that, Sarah came up with the shows DIY SOS and Bargain Hunt, familiar shows to you, of course, being on BBC One. So, okay, so we've got a theme which is property, and this talking point. Tell us about this week's talking point, Sarah. And if you're watching, please comment below.
Yeah, so a little bit of property porn for us on a Tuesday morning. Please tell us about an interesting or impressive building you've been to in your life, something that's really inspired you and impressed you. We'd love to hear about it in the chat, and maybe, just maybe, we can get the opportunity to visit said locations at some point in the near future.
Great. Okay, so just a reminder there to introduce yourself in the chat. We're just going to have a quick look at who's chiming in. And just to let you know, Sarah, the co-producer and co-host, will be moderating the chat here on LinkedIn Live. But we are also what's called simulcasting on something called YouTube, which we've just started out on. We opened a channel just a few weeks ago. It's a bit of a slow burn with YouTube. You have to get 1,000 subscribers till you can start to use Sense platform. So if you are watching now live, simulcasting on YouTube, a big hello to you. We're not going to leave you out, just going to talk about chatting on LinkedIn. Feel free to comment, like if you enjoy this episode, and if you find you're getting value from today, please subscribe. We'll be talking about YouTube later on because our guest, Martin Roberts, has started a YouTube channel, doing rather well with it, but we'll be asking him about that. So the format for today will be a few questions from the house. I've known Martin for a number of years. We've had certain points our paths intersected. We've done a bit of business together, and now he's a studio guest on the 4th episode of the Biz Live, sponsored by DCW Group. So I'm just going to give a few shout outs. I can see Adam Stevens there, the TEDx speaker. Nice to see you for the first time on the show. Mark Hatcliffe, very nice to see you there, former director of Barclays Bank. And just to rival that, I see Chris Park, who was a former director of Lloyds Bank as well. So good morning to you, Chris. Thank you very much for your comment there. Very good morning to you, and I hope everything is fine in the city, as they say. And also there we have a former mayor, Ian Porter. Very nice to see you again. He's chimed into every single episode and is delivering jobs, work placements, and so much more to the community in the southwest of England. If you are watching from abroad, then please do let us know. We would love to know. We had somebody from Dubai and Doha in previous episodes, so thank you very much indeed. And there's Adam Rook, who's sponsoring season 3 of the Biz Live. Lovely to see you all. And then last but by certainly no means least, there's our sponsor, Dean Ward. Very good to see you. And of course, Dean is a property expert himself with 17 years experience, and he will be sticking around hopefully afterwards to say hello to Martin. So Sarah, any last comments? There's a bit of background noise there on your microphone, I think there.
Yes,
so,
I'm just getting myself in position to take all the comments. Already Becky Shaw said she loves the library in Birmingham, the main library. She says it's an amazing place to work from. So that's one that I've never visited. And I'm guessing that you haven't either.
No, I haven't. But what I can tell you is we're about to meet a man who probably has. And please give it up, everyone, and give a very special Biz Live stroke Evo networking welcome to Martin Roberts, who's joining us from an undisclosed location somewhere in the United Kingdom. Hello there, Martin Roberts.
Morning, Jamie. Morning, everyone.
How are you doing?
Undisclosed. You make it sound so romantic. I'm in a hotel in Southampton.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I think I might have overstayed my welcome slightly, as I think the checkout might have been a little while ago. So if at some point there's a knock on the door and a very surprised-looking chambermaid appears, just excuse me for a moment while I deal with her, so to speak.
Or maybe it's the TV police for crimes against daytime television. Who knows?
Listen, talking of daytime TV, and Sarah might be interested in this, BAFTA have just announced that they are going to create a category in recognition of the importance and the increasing importance in recent times of daytime television. So BAFTA have finally followed other organisations like the RTS in actually honouring daytime TV. So those two shows you're involved in, Bargain Hunt and the other one, I mean, they're probably up for an award. And I'd like to think that maybe we are too. Finally, Homes on the Hammer, after 17 years, 1,800 episodes, 3,000 properties, might actually get itself an award.
And everyone, that was a lovely episode and a good introduction as well. That is an incredible, I mean, I think along with DIY SOS, I think you're probably the longest sort of continually broadcasted presenter, if there is such a phrase, in television, and that's probably going across around the world as well. It's an incredible track record there, mate. Congratulations. Well, look, a little goodbye to Sarah. Please go and do your wonderful moderating, and we're going to zone in a little bit on your past. I think very much like when we met with Rob Law a couple of weeks ago, the creator of the Trunky, for which you chimed in, and we were very grateful for that. I know you're filming at the moment, so can I just say on behalf of us all, thank you very much indeed. I understand that you had a chat with the producers and you've moved the schedule for today's filming of presumably Homes Under the Hammer. So thank you very much to you, but also thank you very much to your executive producer. And if you're enjoying the Biz Live, give me a job. Do you like that? Just riding in on your coattails again, Martin Roberts. Thank you so much. All joking aside. So can we have a thumbs up for Martin Roberts, or a little round of applause, or that sign which we don't know on the LinkedIn chat? You can't see it, Martin, I can tell, but it's like a green hand. Like it's like saying, give us your loose change or something. I don't know what that means, but there is there. So give us one of those if you're watching, please. There's a latency of about 15 seconds, so you can't see it, Martin, but everyone else will be able to. In fact, I'm just going to jump across to LinkedIn. Let's see some green hands. There's a hand with a heart. There it is. Okay, there it is. Thank you. So look, you've had an amazing career. Obviously, you're perhaps best known for property, and we'll come to some of the amazing things you've done recently, such as a show which begins with M, which we don't know if we can tell anyone about yet, but you decide whether you can or not. You've set up a charity, you've written books, of course, with the Sadsville range, and of course you've started to boss it again on YouTube. But you've had a year where filming effectively stopped. So that's the kind of the current situation. Let's go back into your past. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you found yourself getting into the property world and also broadcast.
So I mean, my background is one of those tales of things don't necessarily go as you plan, or maybe you just can't plan for where things are going to go. I started out, I went to university to do electronics. I went to Bradford University and got a degree in electrical engineering. But while I was there, I worked on the university radio station and also the hospital radio station, and discovered that my passion really was in broadcasting, communicating, engaging with people in that kind of way. So I finished the degree, and I was sponsored at university, but at the end of it, I just decided, you know what, it wasn't really for me. And it was one of those pivotal moments which actually happened halfway through an interview for a job with the BBC as an engineer. When halfway through the interview, and I mean, this goes back years because I'm actually pretty ancient. So it was in the days of reel-to-reel tape recorders. And I'd been asked a question, can I just show how I've threaded a reel-to-reel tape recorder? So I was in the middle of doing that, and I was like, ugh. And one of the interviewers just looked at me and said, "You don't want this job, do you?" And I was like, well, actually, no. He said, "You want to be on the other side of the camera or the microphone. You don't want to be doing this technical stuff, do you?" And I went, "No, you know what? I don't." And we all had a laugh about it. It could have gone all sorts of ways, but actually they were really sweet. And that day he said, "Look, you're in the BBC. You are on your way out in broadcasting house. Pick up the phone. It's an internal phone. Pick up the phone and phone this number. It's the guy who's in charge of BBC local radio. And because it's an internal call, he'll pick it up." So I went down to the big reception in BBC Broadcasting House in Portland Place in London, picked up the phone, dialed the number, and this guy happened to be in his office. He picked it up because it was an internal call. And I explained the circumstances, and I went to see him. And through that, I got a job working in BBC local radio, just as a runner, just as an odd job person, just as a coffee boy, but really just starting my dream of getting into the media. And that led on to other local radio stations. I started out in Radio Merseyside because that was local to where I was born, in Warrington. And then I did Radio Manchester, I did Radio Lancashire. And then when I was at Radio Lancashire, I did a great story, a travel story, actually, which was about people from the south coming up on buses to visit the north. And it was so long ago, Jamie. It was like 30 odd years ago. It almost seemed like some of the people in the south had never been to the north. So it followed this group of people on this bus up to the north, where they discovered, we all didn't live in, in caves and wear clogs still. And it was such a funny story. I sent it down to a travel show on Radio 4 at the time, which was called Breakaway. And nothing happened. But I'd started doing some other stuff for Radio 4. So one day, another one of those just life-changing moments, I was just walking down the corridor from another show I'd been working on. I saw the office to Breakaway, and I thought, I wonder if they ever got my tape. So I went in, and there, sure enough, underneath a pile of about 100 other tapes was my tape. It would have never been listened to. But they just called in at lunchtime. There was a woman in there. She listened to the tape. She laughed all the way through it. She said, "What do you do?" I explained. And I said, "Anyway, who are you?" She said, "I'm the editor of the programme." So I started working for Breakaway on Radio 4. And then that led into doing some TV stuff on a show called Wish You Were Here, which you may or may not remember. With
Sarah was a producer on Radio 4. She was the one who turned away your initial idea or accepted it. Who knows? But she was producing. I don't know. So
it's just one of those things. It's just one of those times, a couple of times there, when you just think, how different life could have been if you'd taken a slightly different path, or if I hadn't called in that office that day. You can't think like that. You've got to have a bit of belief in a bit of fate and making the most of opportunities when they're presented to you.
I think a number of people I've spoken to who've had a successful choice of a career like you have, and it's been consistent. There was a combination of talent, being in the right place at the right time, sheer graft. I did not know that you were effectively a runner in the radio studio. That's how Chris Evans started off. That's how so much talent in the world has started.
Well, I was doing Radio Manchester when Chris Evans was doing Radio Piccadilly, which was the ITV station. So, now, I have to say, if you compare us, I think he's done slightly better than me. But hey-ho.
He's got a few more white Ferraris, perhaps, but that's Anyway, so look, I want to jump forward because we've got about half an hour here. I want to make sure that we get at least 20 minutes of viewer questions, people taking part. I want it to be fully interactive, and we never quite managed to get through all the questions. So just to remind you, if you are watching, you're watching The Biz Live. My name is Jamie Breeze. Our guest today is Martin Roberts, the property guru. I've given him that appellation today, and you can ask questions, and we will do our very best in the next 5 or 10 minutes to ask them to Martin. So I'm going to jump forwards to most people in the UK and possibly abroad now would have watched BBC One's Homes Under the Hammer. It's a long returning series. It's a huge success. You've been consistent on our screens pretty much every weekday on the main network here called BBC One. So, but there was a kind of a diversion at one point. A good few years ago, you were on another hugely successful primetime or peak time show called I'm a Celebrity. What happened on that show? I did watch it. I knew you a little bit by then. I found it quite difficult to watch, especially if I know people on the show. It's a weird experience if you sort of know someone on the show. And you had an epiphany, didn't you? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was very interesting. There you go. You're sort of thrown into an environment with 12 people who you've never met, and you're in extreme circumstances. No matter what anybody says, it's tough. I'm a Celebrity is tough. They want it to be tough. They want you to be hungry. They want it to be rough. They want you to be missing your family. You go into isolation for a week before you get into the jungle, where you're not allowed out your hotel room. So, obviously we're all very familiar with that kind of scenario right now. But at the time, very discombobulating. You're very confused. So you go into that jungle already in a bit of a heightened state, and then combine that with hunger and a few interesting personality traits which bang against each other. And in normal circumstances, you just walk away from people who you maybe have a difference of opinion with. But in that sort of confined environment, you just have to get on with it. And sometimes it's easy to do that, and other times it isn't. And bear in mind that they're filming 24 hours a day for 100 cameras. So they've got 2,400 hours of footage. And when they come to edit it into a show, they're getting that down to about 40 minutes. So they obviously, as producers of the show, pick out the bits which are going to be most interesting. And, they picked out a fair reflection of what was going on there. And at times it was tough, at times it was an emotional roller coaster. But it was very interesting. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn, how you are perceived by people and how their impression of you at the start is wrong, and what you can do to change that initial impression, how you can modify how you are to maybe give a different impression at the start. But at the end, if they give them time, which is what happened to me, they realize that you're actually quite a nice guy. And it was at the end of it, I came out of that feeling, better about myself than I probably have done for a very long time. It was really nice. And it was really quite interesting because, I love people who love Homes Under the Hammer. We have 1.6 million people watching every day, whatever it is. I'm a Celeb was a different audience. It was a lot of younger people. People maybe thought, who the heck is this guy? And it was really nice at the end of it. Lots of people warmed to me. That was really sweet.
Yeah. What an experience, man. What a show to go on, with a global spotlight on you. And it seemed like an unusual segue from being a property expert to be on the show, but then it did, it was, as you said, it was a humbling experience. And I know we won't talk about it now, we haven't got time, but you went on to do some businesses around the subject and some of the themes that you've probably been thinking about when you're on the show for all those weeks. And so I want to sort of talk about property because there's a lot of business people here today chiming in, interacting. And I wondered if I could just start with, clearly an important question. And I know that you have your kind of, a finger in the air for property and so forth. I'd like to talk about commercial and people who own their houses, people who've got a property. What's your kind of crystal ball gazing? And I'm not expecting the stock market to go up and down or not, but what's your, with the COVID crisis, it seems to be people are selling houses and buying houses. My friend is moving house. I think I'm helping her in 2 days' time. Seems to be a bit of a boom market, or is that just an illusion?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, latest figures produced yesterday from Rightmove and a lot of the people out there in the market saying house prices are rising at their fastest pace in 4 years, with asking prices for October up 5.5% on a year ago. And that's according to Rightmove. So, we are seeing a bit of a boom, and it's happening. It's anecdotal evidence if you talk to estate agents and developers and people out there. So that was, and I was on the side of things will actually be all right, certainly when we first come out. all the way through because a pent-up demand. People need places to live. Housing is not some commodity you can do without. You know, if you can find your way to afford it, then you need a house. You need a place to live, whether you're renting it, whether you're buying it, whatever. So as an intrinsic commodity to invest in, it is something which people need in any kind of scenario. So, you know, I was always confident that the market wouldn't tank when we came out of this. And in fact, the fact that it was sort of held back and we went into almost like a lockdown of property as well, created the pent-up demand, which we're seeing now come through in terms of, you know, the amount of business that's being done. You then couple that with, you know, the stamp duty reduction and this window of opportunity for any house below 500,000 to be stamp duty free, unless it's your second or more property, in which case you obviously have to pay the 3% up to that 500,000. You know, that coupled with the fact that also people, I think, during lockdown went, do I really want to live in a flat in the centre of a city when, for a start, I haven't got any space around me? Secondly, is this quality of life? And thirdly, if I can work from home, why do I need to be commutable distance to work anymore? So a lot of things changing. So a lot of people making that life decision as well. So throw those things together and you are seeing, you know, a real boom in the market. Now, that's not across the whole market, I don't think. I think those city centre flats and certainly commercial properties and things like that, if you're not looking at the bigger picture of commercial properties and the opportunities which I think they potentially have in terms of converting them to residential housing and stuff, if they're not working as commercial properties anymore, then I think if you can throw those things together, you see why there is what we're seeing at the moment, which is definitely a bit of a boom. Now, obviously, the big question is, how bad is it going to be when all this rubbish finally ends? How knackered is the economy going to have been? How crucified are the average person going to be who's buying that first house? And what effects will that have longer term? And, you know, I still believe long term or medium to long term, which is what you should be viewing property investment as, property will do well. And I think, you know, as Warren Buffett says, you know, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. There will be, I think, some amazing opportunities in the coming months. And even if the property market is sort of going down, there are still opportunities, you know, out there for people who are professional about it. Take advice. I do property training courses and we teach people, a bit like in the stock market, you can make money when stocks are going up and you can make money when stocks are going down. It's the same in the housing market. But intrinsically, I believe in the commodity. I believe in housing. There isn't enough of it. There's more demand than there is supply. And in any business, that's got to be a good scenario.
I want to ask Dean and a few others have started to talk about the commercial sort of property. I think I'd just like to ask two more questions, Martin, and then we'll go to the chat. And for those of you who are watching, you're watching The Biz Live on LinkedIn, streaming on LinkedIn Live. It's a brand new part of the global platform. About 2,500 people around the world out of 675 million users have been accredited to stream live. So we're very lucky, and we're simulcasting on YouTube too. So if you're getting value from today, you're enjoying the conversation, then please do like, comment and subscribe on YouTube. It's a new channel. And if you're taking part today, please do introduce yourself in the chat. And when it's simulcast and then it play back automatically live on LinkedIn, continue to chat because it's going to stay up on LinkedIn forever, as far as we know. So Martin, we've touched on commercial property. I think that's another big question. I know a lot of people who have been renting offices. Some have been forced to abandon that agreement, as it were, or give notice more accurately on their office space. I know that in certain cities, there's some office spaces are quite quiet. What do you think is the future of the commercial property? I know you do a lot with residential homes, but what about commercial? Are they going to be turned into houses of multiple occupancy, or are people going to return to work in your opinion?
So, I mean, I don't think now that we've basically been forced into pioneering this work from home model that it's ever going to go back to how it was in terms of the number of people commuting to work, because, you know, it's like business meetings. Before, you'd be frowned on, wouldn't you, if you did it by, you know, any kind of link like this. Now it's just accepted. So there's been a massive shift in that. So I think the idea that people living in the city to be close to work certainly has changed, which means that some of that space, you know, in the city centres is going to be from a housing point of view, not necessarily utilised. From a commercial point of view, people don't necessarily need those big offices. So I think if I had a huge portfolio of commercial rental properties, I would have to be shifting my thought processes right now to thinking about how can I utilise those best and not try and hang on to the possibly outdated idea that I'm going to find somebody else who's going to rent them and use them as commercial premises, for whatever, be that shops, be that offices, or whatever. So I'd be looking at, yes, the permitted development opportunities there might be for converting them to residential, make it affordable housing, make it nice stuff that's going to bring in, an alternative source of revenue. And I think you need to act quick, because I think, I just don't think we're going to get back to things as they were. So we need to adapt, okay? And I think those people who adapt quickly are probably going to benefit the most. That's going to require a big shift. I get that. It's going to require an investment. And I understand that as well. But I think if you're going to survive, you need to be realistic right now. And I think, you only have to look at the figures and guess what's going to happen. And I think most of us can see it's going to be tough. So people will always need places to live. So maybe a shift into an alternative things like HMOs, like student accommodation, like, just normal AST rentals, or building flats that people can buy themselves, is a way to diversify part of your portfolio, if not it all.
Got it. Well, look, we're going to bring Sarah in just a minute, but it would be wrong if I didn't talk about the amazing work you've done with setting up the Sadsville project with the NSPCC. Tell us how that happened, Martin, and what was your inspiration and how's it going?
Well, okay, so I wrote this book called Sadsville, and unfortunately I've lost my copy, so I put it on the bus, but I've got a picture of it here. It's on the website. So that's the book. It's called Sadsville. It's on sadsville.co.uk. And I wrote this book 2 or so years ago. It's part of a series called The Villes, and in The Villes, something's gone wrong. So in Windyville, it's always windy. In Colesville, it's always cold. In Bordesville, everyone's always bored. And it's aimed at sort of 7 to 10-year-old children, and it's just a whimsical, silly book, and it gets them thinking about solving problems. Why is it always windy? There's always a silly, whimsical reason. The reason it's windy in Windyville, for instance, is the man who builds the wind farm is actually colourblind, so he's actually wired the wind turbines the wrong way, so they're actually blowing rather than taking the power of the wind. You get the kind of idea. So I'd always been supportive of the NSPCC and wondered what else I could do to help them. And so I decided to write a book which just got children thinking about their emotions. So not a heavy book, not a heavyweight, emotional book, but one which just start thoughts about emotions. And so I wrote Sadsville, where everyone's sad. And they're sad because the man who's making the crisps in the crisp factory is putting real onions in the cheese and onion crisps. And you have to work with kind of like a hero character who goes in and help him solve the problem. But at the end of it, it says if you're sad for any reason, first of all, check there aren't any onions in your cheese and onion crisp. But, let's look at why you might be sad and reach out for support from a trusted adult, your friends, but also the NSPCC and their Childline service is there to help you. And our plan is still to give a free copy of this to every single 8 and 9-year-old in the UK. And we've done it with support from local businesses. We did it in Bath and North East Somerset. We did it in Somerset. We did it in Hampshire. Gave out 34,000 books to individual children. And as money comes in, we just do other areas. But then COVID happened, and the reports out there from business, from people like the NSPCC, from Oxford University, were saying that primary school age children were suffering possibly more than anybody else in this scenario, just mentally. So I thought, I've got to get this book in front of the kids, and I can't afford to do it in front to every single kid. But I managed to raise enough money from a packaging firm in Swindon, actually, called Wasdale, and they gave me enough money to, through my foundation, the Martin Roberts Foundation, give a free copy, 2 free copies of the book, a special teaching version of the book to every single primary school in the UK. So last week, actually the week before last, every single primary school in the UK, 22,500 of them, got a free copy of a teaching version of Sadsville, which contains the book, but also contains lots of teaching materials to help a teacher put the book into context in a lesson about emotions, just to try and flag up any children who are struggling with what's going on and get them to reach out for support. So we did that, and I'm really proud that it's out there now and hopefully being used, and hopefully, singling out children who are struggling.
You've done amazing work on that, and I know your effort and pressure on yourself to get it spot on is absolutely unrelenting. It's just great news. I didn't even know about that recent development, so well done. I know how passionate you are and what it means to you as well. So huge congratulations. And I'm sure everyone, if you like what you're hearing, give Martin a thumbs up in the comments. That's great. Okay, so look, we're going to have a chat about your YouTube channel in a moment, but I want to bring Sarah in, and she's got a few questions from the comments. And what can I say? But this is fantastic. Thanks, Martin. Okay, so you're watching the Biz Live. My name is Jamie Breeze. If you'd like to be invited to future episodes, then please do add me on LinkedIn. If you're watching from abroad, please do let us know. If you're watching on the replay, please continue to comment and let yourselves be known to each other. It's an interactive show, it's a networking opportunity, and it's sponsored by DCW Group. Also, it'd be remiss if I didn't say that we are founded from a networking background. We run Evo Networking, or Evolution Business Networking. This has been going on in the southwest of England and Wales for about 5 years now. So if you like to network, we used to do it face-to-face, but during the COVID crisis, we're meeting online. We have a meeting every day of the week. And now, more often than not, there's lunch times as well. So if you'd like to take part, just use that registration link down there for Eventbrite. Use the promo code online-rocks in capitals. Book yourself a free place. It's open week this week. And tell you what, if you're watching the show, it will be open week for you next week as well. So this is throughout October. Come on in, come and visit a group. Pick a group which is close to you, whether it's Bath, Bristol, Wales, Wiltshire, Gloucestershire. We've got the whole of the southwest pretty much covered now, and there's a new group opening up soon as well. So if you'd like to register for that, we'll let you know. It covers the whole of the southwest of England. It's on a Wednesday lunchtime, and you can use that link there. It's a Google form, and we'll send you an invite. Also, if you'd like to watch the next episode, it is season 2. It's going to be sponsored by UMO Finance, and our guest is Mark Colburn, MBE. He is a Paralympian, a world record holder, a champion cyclist, and he won gold at the London 2012 Paralympics. And you can register for next week's show, which is Tuesday, and that is going to be I believe it's the 27th of October. So that's 11:30 a.m. GMT. And we're going to bring Sarah in now to have a few questions for Martin. So what have you got for us, Sarah?
Well, I was just thinking there, how things have changed internally in our homes and offices. I mean, Martin goes into properties and suggests taking walls down, because that's been the trend, hasn't it, Martin, over the last, 50 years, really, since the 70s. And will you be going into to places now and start suggesting, we put those walls back in so that we can segment properties down, so that we've got these different spaces for people to utilise? It's interesting, isn't it, to think what our homes and offices are going to be like in 2050. It's not far away now, but things are bound to change. And we've got some questions coming in. So Leanne Cope has asked, she's bought a property in Bristol with a view to putting it on Airbnb. Is it still worth pursuing that in the current climate?
So I'm a big fan of Airbnb. I run holiday properties through Airbnb, and we swapped over from using a normal lettings agent, a holiday lettings agent actually, and it's been really good for us. Your commission rates are tiny in comparison. There's a lot of extra work. You have to be on top of it, because you're obviously swapping an AST where you'll maybe do a changeover once every 6 weeks to a potential changeover every. Well, it depends how small you set your window of availability. 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. So you've got to be prepared for that. However, as with most things, the more effort brings more return. And, it can be extremely profitable. You need a good cleaning company who can go in there, especially now, because people expect that. So like we're actually fogging all our properties, in between people visiting. So we had to buy a fogger. Okay, so that's just an additional expense. You just have to put it down to it. It can be very profitable. Now, what is quite interesting about Airbnb, which started out more as a holiday thing, is that it is now and has now moved into being more of an alternative to people who are looking for, temporary overnight accommodation through work or other things. So not only Bristol. Not only does Bristol have the opportunity of being a holiday destination, because there's so much obviously to look forward to seeing in Bristol, but it also is a place where you've got a lot of people coming in there to work. So I think you've got a potential double hit. But just check out what your competition is, because look on Airbnb and imagine yourself as a client. And if you were checking it out, look at the kind of prices you could expect, look at what the kind of quality is and what you're going up against and what you could potentially gain from your venture, and then do a cash flow, do a business plan on it. I believe it's a good thing to do, but it won't be right for every circumstance. So do some more research and put yourself in that position of being a client and see what's out there.
Yes, absolutely. Research. Dean Ward is also asking you, Martin, what is your take on the government's planning white paper? Do you think it's achievable?
I sometimes wonder with these white papers who they've actually talked to before they start coming up with them, and often you feel like that it's not actually people who know anything about the issues that the white paper addresses. So it is a white paper. That means it is up for discussion. I think it's incumbent on all of us to read that and make sure that we're happy with what some of the suggestions are. I think some of the planning suggestions, in principle, have some weight. I think a lot of them are completely rubbish. I think we've all been through the planning nightmare that you can occasionally have or often have when you're trying to just do things in your world make a lot of sense. As a responsible builder or a responsible developer, building on brownfield sites and things where it should be allowed and it isn't for whatever reason. So, I think, lots of it, if it's about simplification of planning laws and things like that, then, it does make sense. But as ever, it's sort of been applied with a bit of a broad brush. And I don't think, enough consultation has been done with the people actually at the coalface.
Brilliant. And Ian Porter, I'm not sure where Ian's from, but he is asking, did you enjoy working with our students through the summer? And what, in your experience, did they bring to your business?
So Ian's from Weston College and down in Weston-super-Mare. And we took on 3 work experience students from their multimedia output. So we took on somebody who was a graphic designer. We took on somebody who was sort of business type student. And these are 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And we took on an editor. And I have to say, without exception, they've all been amazing. These are young. These are exactly the sort of kids who my heart goes out to at the moment. Hardworking, intelligent, clever kids who've done their bit. And my fears for what the ramifications of everything that's going on to people like that getting good jobs, is terrible. But anyway, so they came to us and we gave them what's really important in making yourself stand out, experience. And in fact, we've taken one of them on permanently. The editor just proved to be, they're all great, and we had a lot of support from Weston College. About in terms of placing those students. They found the students for us. They presented us with some to interview, which we did, but they'd whittled it down. And all I can say is the students who we took on were perfect for us. So I think Ian's there if you want to get in contact with him and to look about placing students in your business. They from my experience, it's been a really positive one.
Thanks, Martin. This is great. And thanks for all these questions. We've got about another 5 minutes left until we wrap, to use industry parlance, and also, once again, thank you for taking time out and speaking to your colleagues to find time to be with us here on episode number 4 of the Biz Live. So, Martin, I know during the lockdown, you turned renewed attention to YouTube. It's something which I think you wouldn't mind me saying you're relatively new to. You weren't a novice by any means, being a broadcaster, but it's something that you decided to work further on as your filming was interrupted. Tell us about your YouTube channel and how you approached it and what's it about.
So it's called Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, and I just wanted a bit of a snappy title that people could remember. So Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, and I just wanted to increase the stuff that's out there to offer just really good property related advice, investment advice, practical property advice, along with DIY advice. So you're right, I couldn't stop filming. I wasn't filming Homes Under the Hammer at all. We've only literally started, this is one of the first few days that I've done it. I'm actually doing it at the moment. So that's today down in Southampton. So I just wanted to carry on making stuff. So I made lots of videos about how to make things and fix things, and also DIY for adults and also DIY for children. So to try and inspire them to take up the idea. I'm not talking about rewiring a house, but just building things and projects that they can actually have fun with. You can couple that then with Property Masterclass, which just really guides people on everything from from buy to let to HMO to some real good stuff, and ties in all the property training stuff that I do. And also I've got a few property renovations that I'm working on. So at the moment I'm working on an HMO down in Plymouth, and so I'm filming
HMO being a
house of multiple occupation. So that's where you take one house and you split it up into individual rooms, which you then rent out. And it's all there. It's all free. You know what it's like. You put it out there, and it's all available to people to look at. And it's getting a good response. It's a slog. You just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But I'm very proud of it. So if you get a chance to have a look, it's Martin Roberts Property Tidbits, and hopefully it might be an inspirational thing for you.
Thanks, Martin. We've been asking our viewers, we'll call them viewers today, they could be interactive participants next week, we haven't decided. It's also cutting edge here on LinkedIn Live and, of course, YouTube. What for you is an impressive building? It's been one of the talking points for today. What building for you has been impressive and why? And Sarah, just mindful that there's a super exaggeration on your audio.
So whenever I drive past the National History Museum in London, I just love that Gothic type, modern Gothic architecture. So St Pancras Station and the Natural History Museum, I believe, both designed by the same people. And it's just such an extraordinary building. It's so romantic and so over the top, but completely brilliant. And then inside, just to have that one massive great hall, which used to have a brontosaurus in it, and now I believe contains a blue whale, or the skeleton.
It was a plaster cast. I was really disappointed when I discovered that. It was a plaster cast. It wasn't the original. I used to go there. I used to live. I sound really poshy. I used to live around the corner.
Yeah, la 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 la. Don't ruin it for me, Jamie. Anyway, I love that building. And I like modern architecture as well. So some of the things like, well, the Shard's amazing. The building that always stuck out was the Lloyds Bank building when they built it, where they almost put everything. It's like an inside-out building, so all the sort of stuff was on the outside. And its day, it was extraordinary. But yeah, I'll tell you one building I absolutely do love. One of the things I watched during lockdown was a rewatched Sherlock, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, and there is a house in that which is just extraordinary. It is actually a real house. But it was sort of the lair of one of the baddies, and that was an amazing piece of architecture.
Sarah, you've got some ideas on impressive buildings. Tell us about them.
Yes. So Lisa Holden says the Taj Mahal took her breath away. Anyone who's been there will, I'm sure, have felt similarly. Dean Ward says he sang in St Nicholas's Church in Prague, and that was a very magical experience for him. Maria Allen, this is an unusual one. The Ladies' Loos at the V&A Museum in London. That's I've not been there, but I imagine it's of a similar era to the Natural History Museum. I was also thinking then of the Guggenheim in Bilbao. That's a pretty amazing building. But Martin, have you ever been to Hearst Castle in California? I think that's an amazing property. I like swimming, so those two incredible pools, the inside one and the outside.
Or Leeds Castle, second of the castle in a slightly different way. But I once went to a fireworks concert, and
wow.
One of those ones where they have an orchestra, classical music orchestra, and fireworks. And what a setting, Leeds Castle! It's a proper kids' castle, right?
Yeah, absolutely incredible. What about you, Jamie? Have you got anything in mind?
Yes, I grew up in West London, Shepherd's Bush, Hammersmith, and then latterly my dad lived in Notting Hill before it went all up market and went through a period of bourgeoisification in the early 80s. But we used to, with my mum, who worked at a tertiary college in Harrow, not the school I hasten to add, where I did my A-levels, we used to go past the Hoover building, which was a 1930s masterpiece. And I think during that time it was converted. It's obviously, I think it was a grade 1 protected building. And eventually it got turned into a supermarket, all things. But it had this amazing Art Deco frontage, a bit like the old 1920s or 30s radio sets. Absolutely beautiful. I encourage anyone just to Google the Hoover building in West London. It's an exceptional. I think it probably sort of encouraged my interest in the Art Deco movement, for which, as you know, Sarah, having been my boss at ITV, it started to get me interested in the Art Deco movement.
I love the Hoover building. It's beautiful.
And I think, it's when I've traveled around the world, I've just been in. I even though I don't have a sense of religiosity, I love the architecture of cathedrals, of course, like most people do, and the stained glass, and it's just something I'm eternally fascinated by. But I would say the Art Deco movement is my favorite period, and of course that's emulated in a way, or prefigured by the imagery from ancient Egypt, which was an inspiration for Art Deco, as I've said on a few shows before. But yeah, very, very much beautiful. And if I could go back in time, I'd love to see the construction of the pyramids. I'm sure most people would, and all that sort of architecture and design consideration, which, you know, a couple of thousand or 3,000 or 4,000 years later was revived with that Art Deco movement, which we still see today in the design of cars and so much more. So Martin, we're coming towards the end of the show, and I just before we say a fond farewell, I'd like to bring in, he doesn't know this, I just WhatsApped him, is that what you can say, WhatsApped, to say, you know, the biz is a new endeavor, as General Sir Peter Wall said, and he wished us well on the pilot episode, and right from the very beginning, and then in 4.5 minutes of actually notifying people for sponsorship for this new show was available. Our sponsor, Dean Ward, just literally put his hand up and said, I'll go for it. And to be frank, I think he was doing it based on just wanting to support us. And it's funded some technology which we use, and it's quite expensive to get the technology to stream live. It's extremely intense processing power. And I hope that you'll be streaming one day here on here sometime soon, Martin. I'd recommend it, as well as YouTube as well. So I'd like to just bring in, just for half a minute, to say thank you to Dean Ward, who launched a property platform. It's his last episode of sponsorship. He sponsored season 1. So Dean, I just wanted to congratulate you and share with Martin the enormous success you, just by coincidence, you launched your new property intelligence platform on the afternoon that we had our pilot with General Sir Peter Wall. And would you like to just tell us very briefly about that, mindful that this is unscheduled and Martin has a schedule?
Sorry, I'm glad I've done my hair, so it's all right. Yeah, so basically we set up a due diligence platform because after my experience in the development industry within housing sector, 17 years, and the difficulty always became where trying to filter through site opportunities to see if they've got, you know, whether they're viable or not. So I built a development platform that can kind of speed that process from sort of 5 to 6 months to sort of 20 minutes. So yeah, it's satisfying a need that we know is there because I've experienced it. So yeah, it's gone quite well. We've now got 328 users now, which has generated a fair chunk of income. So yeah, we're in growth mode, which is great.
And a fair chunk of income is, well, you know, I know you put 20 grand into it and it's yielded a substantial amount. So congratulations, Dean. And thank you very much for investing some of that into allowing us to put this show on. And Dean has 17 years experience in the property business. So a good luck to you, Dean, on your bold endeavor as well. And thank you so much for being part of the very beginnings of what we hope will run for years and years. And of course, thank you very much indeed to you, Martin, for myself and Sarah Brooks, our co-host. I know that from everyone here on the show, we're really grateful for you. And again, to all your colleagues who've bent around our schedule today, it's been an absolute privilege to have you here, and hopefully you'll come back again in our season 28. Are you in season 28 of Homes Under the Hammer? Is that right?
27, I think. 27.
I stand corrected. So again, from Dean, myself, and Sarah, a big shout out. And what can I say?
It's a pleasure. Good luck, guys. Yeah, keep smiling.
Thanks a lot, Martin.
Okay, so you are watching the last burning embers of the final episode of season 1 of The Biz Live. So just to wrap things up, again, a big thank you to Martin for coming along and talking about property, his experiences within the industry, within broadcast. There's so much to it, and we're very grateful, of course, to Dean and his team for making season 1 happen. It's a fond farewell from us to Dean, but no doubt we'll be in contact again soon, and Dean is part of our networking groups as well. And as I said, if you'd like to take part in the next episode, all you have to do is jump into this link here. You can go back to LinkedIn or YouTube, and perhaps you can make a note with a pen, enter it into your computer, book yourself a free place, and we will send you a reminder the day before or the morning of, and then a link live, because when LinkedIn does go live, it doesn't tell all of our connections. It uses subset. It's an algorithm. So if you want to be certain to be taking part in next week's episode, sponsored by Finance, with Mark leading the way there as the business owner, then please do tune in. And it's registration here. It's free. It takes 30 seconds. And our guest is the Paralympian world record cyclist, gold medal winner from London 2012, and international speaker, Mark Colburn, MBE. So just for last few comments, Sarah, we're just a few minutes over today. Just the last few words from you on our talking point today, Sarah.
Yeah, it's just very interesting, isn't it, to sort of muse about how things are going to be changing and how we're going to be living in 2050. There's a lot of changes, I'm sure, afoot. So, that's interesting to sort of think about. But as Martin said, intrinsically, he believes in property. There's not enough of it. So we're always going to be needing not only more property, but more interesting and adaptive ways of making them work for us. And, also there's a lot of investment opportunities at the moment, and those who are able to jump on that quickly are going to benefit the most. So, lots of food for thought there about how we operate in this rapidly changing climate of ours.
Good stuff. Well, look, thank you for producing again the show, Sarah. Really enjoyed today. And just in case you're wondering where to find Martin's YouTube channel, it's called Martin Roberts Property Tidbits. It's up there on the screen. I encourage you to go along, like, subscribe, comment, and give some support. And also, if you come across the Sadsville books along your in your journey in life, you'll no doubt see them at schools. You'll see some advertising. You may see a launch event in a city or a school. Please do give it a big thumbs up. Give it as much support as you can. I've been to a couple of the launches, and Martin is deeply passionate about this. It comes from a deep inner conviction, personal experience, and so much more. So let's see Sadsville fulfill all of Martin's dreams for the benefit of kids everywhere. So, Sarah, thank you so much indeed. Thank you again to Martin. Thank you again to Dean. Thank you, most importantly, to you for tuning in, taking part, interacting, for all your comments. If you're still watching, give us a thumbs up, or that little hand with a little heart. I want to see the little hearts go up in the air. And if you're watching on YouTube on a simulcast or after the fact, please do like, comment, and if you've got value from today, please subscribe. We'd love to get to that magic 1,000 mark. I'm pleased to say that our pilot episode, which had very limited promotion, has already had 3,400 odd views, and that's on LinkedIn. And we think that's fantastic because people on LinkedIn are busy, particularly during the day. So if you're watching, please comment. If you're watching after the fact on the live restream, please do comment and give us a like as well. It will certainly help us in our endeavors for the future. We will see you next week. From Sarah and myself, you are watching The Biz Live, and it is a fond farewell. We will see you at 11:30 next week. Don't forget to tune in. And from everyone here, goodbye.